final aspect that we're going to talk about in terms of using the collar in protection work or other high arousal activities is what we call secondary control. And this is frequently the best place to use it. And what we mean by secondary control is all the obedience behaviors that we ask the dog to do around the thing that they want. So in this case, let's take the decoy as an example. So we're doing protection work, and so when we've talked about recalls and outs, we're talking about the dog having direct interactions with the decoy and failing to do something we're asking him to do. Well, frequently, we're asking our dogs to heel or down or sit or do other things around the decoy. So the decoy's across the room, or whatever the dog wants to access is across the room, and the dog is failing to do certain types of behaviors that it knows how to do because they want that so bad, a competing motivator. And lots of times we'll apply pressure in these circumstances to get the dog to comply in the presence of that competing motivator. Very careful to apply corrections until you've worked through the training process. So the first part of this process is to teach your dog to heel when there is something they want remotely. So this process is taught, for instance, with a toy first and without corrections. So I take a toy, I throw the toy out in the middle of the room, I ask my dog to heel, I don't correct my dog, I work through, and when they're healing well, I release them to go get the toy. So the dog learns that even though there's something they want across the room, they have to give attention to me or do an obedience behavior with me, and I block their ability to access it until they do the correct thing. But I'm not using corrections. The leash is there to block them from doing it. Once they understand that, then I can start to add corrections if necessary. So if the dog consistently doesn't want to comply, after they've shown me they understand what I'm asking, then I could potentially use corrections there. And then we would use them the same way that we talked about using them during the obedience. I'm healing, and if the dog looks away, I can correct the dog with the collar, remind them they need to look at me, and then when they're doing that well, I can reward them by sending them to bite the decoy, or by giving them a toy with the handler or a reward with the handler if they're motivated enough in those circumstances. The same thing for certain behaviors like down. So for instance, I approach, the decoy's across the room, and I'm going to send my dog to bite, and I ask my dog to down, and my dog fails to down. At that point, I frequently don't need a correction for this, because I can just say, you don't get to go until you lay down. So I have a leash on the dog, they don't, I say, nope, we try that again. When they actually down, then I reward them with a bite. I can use patience and negative punishment, not allowing them to go bite until they do what I want.